Time to bring in the heavy guns. Here's your look at the new Neca toys. This is the Aliens Kenner-inspired Space Marine Drake. Dark, empty, silent. This is deep space, and vicious aliens are attacking. One force has the guns and the guts to face these ugly monsters. Send in the heavy metal, send in the Space Marines. Before we get a closer look at Kenner-inspired Drake, after all, he's based on the Kenner's initial design of the character, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. If you're in the market to pick up Drake for yourself, you should be able to now find him through various online stores. I'd also like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at Neca Toys for making this review possible. According to my Ultra Measure-Tron 5000, yes, that's the name I've given my trusty tape measure. You're looking at the figure of Drake standing 7.4 inches in height, almost 7.5. And that in centimeters works out to be 18.9, almost 19 centimeters tall. Looking at the accessories that come included with Drake, you get yourself an insert from the Dark Horse Comics original run of Aliens. This one happens to focus around Sergeant Drake and entitled Meltdown. It's also issue number 5. One thing I actually didn't get a chance to showcase when we had a look at the Rhino Alien, if you haven't checked out that review, go check it out if you want to, is that the Rhino Alien also included one said comic book, although more inspired and more working around the concept of introducing the Rhino. The Rhino Alien was more in that comic, whereas this one centers around Drake. You can see some action going on with Drake. I mean, these are really fun reads. They kind of bring me back to the old Masters of the Universe figures that would have come with little tiny mini comics. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but just to kind of show you, I guess I will not spoil the ending. Just a nice little additional piece to come included with it. A nice little booklet that you can sit down and read when you're not playing with the Drake figure here. The other thing he comes included with is a sticker sheet. This is really bringing back memories of days of getting figures and you start putting stickers on them. You can decorate both the figure and the weapons with the labels. You get, for example, you get Drake, you've got United States flag, some little warning signs, and just a whole bunch of cool stuff that you can incorporate to it. I have not yet, but will be, applying these stickers to my own figure and the Smart Gun that comes included with them. I just wanted to keep it fully intact so that you guys can see all the stickers that come included with the figure. Then after the video has finished, then I'll get a little bit more creative with what I want to do with these actual stickers. So it does come included with that as well. The figure also includes a bayonet. This is something that would be already excessive when you think about it, considering the fact that the figure is packed with a smart gun. To add insult to injury, not only is he shooting the bejeebies out of the aliens, but he's also stabbing them. Because like I said, he comes with a bayonet. This attaches to the very end of the smart gun. We'll look at the smart gun in a second. It's a nice detailed piece, incorporating some additional coloring on the otherwise black plastic. It's got some nice blades of 2 different designs, one more serrated and one smoother blade. And like I said, this is just a really nice looking piece. You can attach it actually to both the smart gun. We'll go ahead and grab the figure collectively with him because they're all attached. And you can just slide the bayonet on the end. You got to imagine it still would allow him to fire this off. I can't think that he would just have to take this off every single time he wants to fire the smart gun. And like I said, it just attaches onto the end there. One other place that I did notice on the back of the figure, if I spin it around, is there's this one little area right here that perplexed me as to what it actually was intended for. It did have a hole to it, and truthfully, I took a little fine screwdriver and doweled it out just a little bit more than what it is right now, because you can actually take the bayonets and it fits just to the back. I find it's the smaller peg that works the best, although they seem almost like they're the exact same size on both sides, but you just plug that onto the back like so. I will say though, this doesn't, at least it didn't work for me the first time that I got it on. I don't know if that is the intended purpose of why that's there, but it does stay in place fine. It did involve, like I said, having to take a screwdriver, because it almost seemed like the hole wasn't fully open. It seemed like the plastic was molded shut over that area, but there was the indication of a hole. I just simply helped it along its way. And like I said, you can just attach that to the back like so. Whether that's supposed to be there for that reasoning or not, like I said, you can attach that to the back. So there's that if you want to as well. Then we can certainly talk about the talking point, of course, and that is the M56 Smart Gun that he comes included with. We have seen this Smart Gun be used before. Vasquez, for example, came included with a Smart Gun, and it looks like it's the exact same version. Doesn't look like there's anything different between this one and the one that we had saw before. It does have an extra piece to it. Well, there's a couple of things going on here. You have the main adjustable. This is going to be, of course, the section that's going to attach to the side of his waist. Oh, there's more. And this does have some articulation going for it. The thing about it, though, is there's two things working against this figure. Not necessarily, well, not too much in a bad way. One thing I wish is that this thing was detachable, because unfortunately, Drake always has to carry it around with him. If you could remove it, and I've had for example, the bandolier on the front, looks like it detaches. I suppose you could feed this off the figure completely. Take the head sculpt off, just take that off, minus the sound effect, and then you could just feed the bandolier off completely. And then, of course, that would get rid of your problem right there of having the Smart Gun always attached. It's attached by a very, very thin thread, so much so that there's like a little bit of unfinished paint on the side of it there. I really wish that this could have been detachable. The other thing about it, though, is it comes in two pieces. And I'll just put the figure down here for a second. He does also come included with this. Now, this would be the piece that attaches to his waist. I'll show you what I mean. We'll go ahead and grab the figure. On the back side there's a hole. Well, obviously, this is going to go to the back. Just move the arm up, take the back section here, plug that into place into the open hole, and you've got this area right here. Logically, then, this should then attach to this, but it doesn't. There's no connecting point. There's nothing that brings the two together. Well, there is one way you can work around it. You can take this clamp right here. It seems like Neca may have actually, in the process of producing these, actually ended up making an extra unnecessary piece that didn't even need to be there. Technically, this piece doesn't even have to be part of the equation. It does involve a little bit of pulling things apart, so if you are of the squeamish variety, you may want to be just looking away. But what it was, though, is this cord right here was attached to the bottom section here. I actually had to pull the wire, freeing itself from this, and then I just removed this clamp piece, just like that. Because you really don't technically need this. If you look at the two, they are identical pieces to one another. Somewhere along the lines, Neca actually made two of the exact same piece. And as I said, they don't attach one another at all. They, can't connect them or anything like that. But if you do away with this completely, just put that to the side, then you can easily, though, take that same piece, that clamp piece, and it just clamps right where it was clamped on the other one. You just simply clamp it onto this one, and you've fixed your problem right there. So if you do pick up this figure for yourself, he is a fun figure. You may want to just be kind of looking at it, and you may have to maybe do a little bit of surgical work, removing the one unnecessary piece in favor of something that at least now is practical for it. So if we want to go ahead and put that into his hand, we'll just bring this around. Just bring his arm down. I almost feel in a way compelled to kind of glue his shoulder down. The bandolier, I find, shifts around a little bit too much, the shoulder section at least. So I will find myself, maybe gluing that along the top. I'm not really sure. I don't really like to have to glue figures in place, but with the way that this shifts around as much as it does, if I'm telling myself I'm never going to have him displayed without the Smart Gun, I'm probably just going to, like I said, glue that in place just so it doesn't shift around, but that's not what we're talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the figure, this hand here, we'll just have it, there we go, attach to the side. There's like a lot of fumbly, fidgety things that you have to deal with for this, but we'll just slide the Smart Gun into his hand, and then we'll take the handle section here, bend his elbows slightly, and then that, didn't mean to do that so close to the camera, that's going to come along to the top. I would suggest it's in your best interest to add the smart gun first to his hands, and then from there figure out everything else you want to do. The other thing that you need to do is see this piece right here. So this is basically the middle section that's always attached. You can't, it's not separate pieces or anything. You're going to take this plug here, this peg, and that fits into that hole, just like that. Now this is plastic, of course. It's a large enough peg at least that you don't have to fight too much to get it in there. And the last thing you need to do is just attach that to the back, just like so. This is, of course, make things a lot easier once you do away with that extra piece that doesn't need to even be there in the first place. And now you've got a fully working smart gun. This does shift back and forth, and it does have articulation here. But truthfully, though, once you get him in a pose like this, you're really probably not going to be moving the arms too often. So even though it does have technically articulation here, and it has articulation here, you're probably not going to be making use of it too much when you have them displayed with the smart gun. But that's basically what it looks like when you've got them fully with it. I like the look of it. Again, I kind of wish in a way that you could have been able to remove this. Sure, yes, you could go the same route that I did to fix this issue right here by just pulling this off. Well, it doesn't really so much fix the issue because now I've just got this strap, this line that's just going to be draping down. I don't want that either. So again, you could probably just simply remove the bandolier altogether, and you simply would just have just a t-shirt, short sleeve shirt wearing Drake instead. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this all off, because this certainly will limit what we can actually see for the figure. We'll just attach it here, we'll detach it there, and we'll just bring the smart gun around. Just take that off for the time being. Unfortunately, it just sort of has to drape. Again, because it has to be attached to the back there. Wish that could be removed. Anyways, we'll have a look at Drake. Nice looking figure when it's all said and done. I had actually owned the original Drake when I was really, really young. And then I went through a period of time where I was going back and collecting a lot of the Kenner-inspired figures. Doing a bout of them actually on this channel. It's something really I should go back and try to finish when it comes to those. For his expression, if you want to call it his expression, he has a grimaced look. He's supposed to, I guess, be angry, but his eyes actually make him look a little bit more surprised than anything else. If they were a little bit lower, or the eyes were a little bit more closed shut, a little more squinted, I think it would make him look a little bit more angry, or kind of actually results in him looking a little bit more surprised or scared than anything else. He does have his camera there on the side along with his communication mic. This is a fully attached piece, so you can't remove that. I like one thing that they've done with the figure is they've dirtied up the face and added a slight sheen to it, especially in his neck and his face, where it looks like he's sweaty. Ironically enough, though, when you look at the rest of the figure, his arms don't seem to have that. In fact, the majority of the figure is generally a matte painted figure, but it's odd that they didn't add like a gloss sheen or something to the sides of his arms as well. I can't imagine that he's simply just sweating in his face and in his neck and nowhere at all in his arms. So it probably would have added maybe a little bit of extra, like a gloss sheen to it. Again, this little bandolier keeps coming free. It's basically just glued in place. I may have to add just a little bit of extra glue to attach that back into place. Like I said, always seems to be falling off on me. Coloring on this guy is actually quite good. I got a feel in some way that he's been reused from component pieces probably pulled from Dutch. Similar looking Dutch lower legs right down to his boots make me feel again like they're probably pulling original Predator Dutch parts in order to construct Drake. And that's fine as well. If you're making use of molds you already have in your inventory, and it means that we can get figures like this, which I might add are not movie tie-in characters, but instead Kenner-inspired figures, why not? Make use of those molds if it means that we can actually get figure releases like this. The coloring on him is very military. I mean, obviously that goes without saying. He has a very matted sort of olive-colored shirt, maybe an avocado-colored green shirt. Doesn't really matter what specific colors. It's green. He has a green shirt. You feel free to use whatever color that you certainly would want. Yeah, a couple of pouches there. It has some bullets running up the bandolier and some larger, it looks like grenades on the other side, which again, this probably has to glue. I'm going to glue that in place. As for his legs, He's got the camouflage printing with that bit of speckling in the white and the black. I like the look of those pants. I have noticed, though, and maybe it's just the fact that the bandolier is covering it, when you lift it up, I seem to have like a gap where the torso doesn't seem like it's fully attached to the lower bottom half. Yeah, it does give him fully articulated torso, and that's always good, but I keep wanting to push this further down, and it doesn't seem to let me. Maybe that's one of the blessings of having the bandolier in place, that it sort of hides some of that, because he does have, I feel, a very noticeable gap from basically that torso to the lower waist. Articulation on Drake is the following. His head rotates all the way around. For some strange reason, I'm looking on the back of his face. It reminds me of Cousin It. The glasses. I don't know, a little bit of a nose. Anyways, his head rotates all the way around. I like the coloring, really, for the hair itself. It's definitely a fun-looking design sculpt. The arms hinge out. Now, due to the fact that Drake has these very large shoulders, I can't seem to get a full 90-degree bend on his arms. That's as far out as I can actually get them. Just a little bit further, that's about it. That's about as far as I can get them. To be fair, though, the arms do rotate all the way around, so that's good. A little on the tighter side, but at least you can make him all the way a full rotation. And while he doesn't have articulation in his bicep necessarily, it's fully sculpted in place. He does have articulation or posability in his elbows here, or his forearms. So while you don't get anything at the top there, you at least get it going on down below. This bends up and down, and like I said, you can rotate that back and forth. You can also rotate the hands all the way around. I mean, even if I'm like looking at the majority of Drake's, not chemical makeup, but certainly the way he was manufactured, I feel very much a lot of this is Dutch. Like even like the t-shirts, I feel, is shared with a Dutch that we'd gotten before. Again, there's nothing wrong with that at all if it means that we get new figures from that. He has the upper torso ball joint, which we've already discussed. That moves up and down, back and forth. And then technically this is the upper torso ball joint, but then he has a lower waist articulation point as well. Legs split out. You can move the legs forward and back. He has a swivel technically at the top where it's connected to that peg that attaches there to the lower trunks there of his legs. But you can bend also at the knee. It's a little rotation on the knee area as well. And then he has articulation in the feet, which you can also rock that ankle pivot back and forth. Drake has some issues, but they're generally not plaguing issues that ultimately ruin the figure. Things like loose bandoliers certainly isn't going to ruin my day. I'm not going to be up until wee hours worrying about the fact that the bandolier does flop around a lot. I mean, really, when it's all said and done, I could just add a little bit of glue to, I feel, the shoulder area to prevent that from shifting around. It's again a bit strange and perplexing that they did give you this extra piece. This is really the piece that was in place. With a little bit of surgical work, not so much, you just have to pop this piece off completely, you at least have a fixable means to solve the issue with the Smart Gun. Again, I don't really know why that was the case in the first place. Maybe they started designing one end of it, one end of the company wasn't, maybe the manufacturing end of it wasn't talking to the other side of it, and the teams ended up resulting in producing the Smart Gun with an extra piece that really isn't even necessary in the first place. If you can overlook those things, overall he's a decent looking figure, and it's certainly, if you're a big fan of the Kenner line like I am, he's a nice additional piece to a pretty small amount of Colonial Marines. We only really have Vasquez, and we have Lieutenant Ripley, and I think that's really, oh, and also Apone as well. So there's 4 Colonial Marines against the very large and what seems to be a growing army of xenomorphs. Hopefully that means Neca will be releasing more Kenner-inspired Colonial Marines that we can add to the ones that we've currently collected. So it would seem that packing the destructive firepower of an M56 Smart Gun wasn't nearly enough for Space Marine Drake, that he took the liberties of adding a bayonet on the end. I guess that's good for those close quarters, stabby situations when he's overrun by xenomorphs. Whatever be the case, we're just going to leave it be. The fact that the man wants blades on the end of his Smart Gun, we'll let the man have blades on the end of his Smart Gun. He's a neat looking figure. He does have things that flop about him, but certainly something that you can easily fix with a little bit of glue if you don't have any issues with the idea of adding glue to your figures. probably going to see myself doing that when it comes to the bandolier, just so it doesn't shift around a lot. I guess they did make it loose enough so that if you did want to remove the Smart Gun, which unfortunately is attached to the back of the bandolier, by simply just taking the bandolier off altogether, you can have Drake without it if you want. I wish there was an easier fix to that, where you could just detach the cable on the back of his torso, but I guess being that the line is so thin, they don't want to run the risk of collectors taking that off and breaking it in the process. Also, one of the real weird things about this particular figure is the fact that the Smart Gun actually has an extra piece to it. Hopefully a review like this has come to aid to show you guys that it is a fixable problem. You don't necessarily have to have two things, one just hanging down the side of his leg, not attached to anything, and his Smart Gun not attached to his torso. You can fix it quite easily by just removing that clamp and very, very carefully taking the line that's attached to it. And bingo bango, short of just adding a little bit of paint to that line, because now I've got a little bit of a white area, you've got yourself problem solved, and you've got the Smart Gun attached the way it should. I'd like to know the story, certainly, as to why that happened the way that it did. Some miscommunication, I'm sure, along the way. Drake has an interesting enough anguished face to it, although he does look a bit more surprised than angry. Again, I'm just happy for the fact that we get ourselves another colonial space marine that we can add to our slowly growing army. It seems like the film versions of the colonial marines have gotten more members under their wing than the poor Kenner line, which now, if you add Drake, I think brings us to the total of 4. Hopefully we'll see more of them, because I would certainly love to see Apone, Drake, Ripley, and Vasquez be joined by the rest of the Colonial Marines, because they've got a lot to deal with right now with the increasing number of aliens that Neca Toys keeps wanting to churn out. And this happy collector is thrilled for the fact that they are. If you managed to pick up Drake for yourself, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of him, or based on this review, and this review alone. I'd like to also send out a big thank you to the folks over at Neca Toys who were nice enough to provide the sample that we saw in this review. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot of Neca reviews lined up and coming soon to this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.